Hello. Today I wanted to speak about how the burning of the things that the Lord Jesus Christ showed me in my life drove me to try to get recognized by the world. And I'm going to share today with a couple of big name ministers on the radio, uh, people like that, what I attempted to do to try to get some kind of recognition from them, because that was my concept of how the Lord uses people mightily, and how I utterly failed, how I fell on my face, and the response or the lack of response which I received from them. I think I'm going to work backwards from the time I was in the Army hospital, and I don't want to say why I know that this gentleman received my letter, but because there's a relative that worked for him, and I don't want to get him in any trouble or give anybody a black eye. But I'm simply making this video to show people that ministries, for the most part, has been my experience, are more concerned with their ministry and building up their order, their established church or university or whatever, than they are and talking about Jesus Christ directly through some tugboat mechanic like I am. This is a little model that I made of an 82 footer, and it's got the Army paint scheme on it. This was the original Army paint scheme, and of course they went to a gray paint scheme, all gray, because I think it was during Grenada. A lot of people didn't know that these were actually United States Army vessels, and also this is a symbol of the American work ethic, which a lot of people don't know. I learned that in the Merchant Marine Academy when I was there. But so that's my little model that I wanted to show today. And of course, I made one of the Lightship Chesapeake, which I named my ministry after. So I'm going to get that out of the way. But I had a cop that lived next door to me, and now I'm jumping around. So I guess I'll tell this story first. Years ago, in the early 90s, I was into eschatology. All young Christians are into eschatology, and when's Jesus coming back and that type of thing. And I had a little bit of I did a little premillennial study on that back in the day. I don't hold to that doctrine anymore, and I'm actually glad that I didn't get credit for something I wrote. But I'm going to explain a little story to you today. I used to watch Dr. Jack Van Impe on TV, and he was always trying to say, "Are you ready, folks? Jesus is coming soon," which he is. But he would use the Bible to try to narrow down, and he still does, as far as I know, as the return of the Lord Jesus Christ. Now, when I was working down the waterfront, I fell on the pier on the cement, and I shattered my elbow one time. Okay, so I had time off from work, and so I took it upon myself to write Dr. Van Impe a long letter on eschatology. Now, one of the things I was taught, and I believe it's in Malachi, it says a day is like 1,000 years, and 2 days he'll be with us, on the third day he'll reign with it, that type of thing. And then you go up to Israel becoming a nation. And I explained to him that if something is planted in the ground, if a seed's planted in the ground, it doesn't blossom as soon as it's put in the ground. It needs time to blossom. So what I wrote to him is that I believed that Israel blossomed in 1967 when it regained the holy city of Jerusalem. rather than 1948, which Hal Lindsey and different people like that had believed that was the, one of the fulfillment of the scriptures. Well, anyway, some time went by, and when I was at the Merchant Marine Academy, of course, we didn't have TVs in our room or anything with the Army studying marine engineering. I happened to come through the hallway one night, and in the break room, Dr. Jack Van Impe was on, and Dr. Jack Van Impe was teaching exactly what I wrote him in the letter. He was talking about that, about the Israel blossoming in '67, which I had shared with him probably, I don't know, a year before, maybe 6 months. But I didn't get the credit. A bishop in England, some guy who was a bishop in England, very well educated man, got the credit for that sharing that I did. And the cop next door to me at the time said, "Well, what are they going to say? Some tugboat mechanic wrote it in? They're going to say some tugboat mechanic wrote this to him?" No, he's not going to say that, because that doesn't help him for his ministry, bring credibility to his ministry. Okay, so that was the first preacher that I tried to be accepted by. Of course, he did send me about 6, 8, 10 books, free books for the questions that I wrote to him. But that one point that I made was he never did answer until I saw it on TV, and some bishop from England got credit for it. Well, anyway, I'm going to fast forward a little bit. So when I had my massive heart attack in the Army, my brother-in-law, which I probably shouldn't say, but my brother-in-law worked for Pat Robertson, and he had shared with Pat Robertson that I'd had a heart attack in the Army and all, and of course Reverend Robertson prayed for me and was praying for my recovery, and I really, really appreciated that. So when I survived, which I wasn't sure, they weren't sure I was going to survive the night, because fluid was coming out of my lungs, and they didn't expect me to live. I found that out when I returned to my church, and the sermon was on the Good Shepherd laying down with the lamb, which spoke to my heart, because when I first lost consciousness, it was Jesus Christ pushing shoulder to shoulder against me, which I've said in another video. But anyway, I wrote Pat Robertson a letter, and I thanked him for his prayer, and I explained how when I was a kid, I used to watch him on TV with my friend that I spoke about in an earlier video that was crippled, and how God used his ministry. But I expressed to him my frustration in sharing my testimony with the world. And I guess I sort of insulted him, because I said, it seems to me that all these ministries are a big business. They're more interested in business and building themselves up than they are Christ. Well, of course, that must have went over like a lead balloon, because I never got a response back for him or anything. And I know that he got the letter because it was sealed and hand delivered to him. But whatever, he's a busy man, and that type of thing. And I guess I was trying to seek some kind of glory for myself, because the things that I had experienced in the Lord, and I tried to share for him. So that was wrong on my part to try to be recognized. Now I have another friend that's a member of the Wounded Warrior Project, like I am, and he was blown up in Iraq. And of course, I guess that was sensationalistic enough for him to share his faith and his courage in trying to help others, where Pat Robertson did endorse him, and Mike Huckabee and different people like that. So he's a famous kind of guy. But a guy like me, nah, nobody's interested in that. Even the radio pastor that I shared about my pastoral vision and how God used him, and his truth notes, which you send into the radio broadcast to explain to people, how the Lord used their ministry to help you. That's, I never received a response back from that. And I'm thinking, what's going on here? Weren't these events, pointing to Christ enough? I mean, come on, what do you want? But none of those things have ever been read on the air, to my knowledge, or anything like that. So, what my whole point is, um, and like I said in my earlier videos, is God uses the foolish things of the world to confound the wise, and we're to follow Him. And my problem is that I've always sought recognition from established churches. I guess I wanted to be a big shot. I wanted to get, I wanted to be puffed up. I wanted to preach Christ and the world to know who I was and that type of thing. And it just doesn't happen because the people are more interested in the business of doing ministry or promoting schools or whatever than they are a lot of times in promoting the Lord Jesus Christ. And that's how I feel about it personally. So I wanted to I'm doing a little name dropping this morning and explaining some of the famous people that I've had contact with, and they had no place for me. They wouldn't even in the broadcast of the Merchant Marine Academy, they wouldn't even share my name, who I was. So this is the kind of lessons that I've had to learn about how men really will reject Christ. That's the only way I can see it. They're rejecting Christ, because why wouldn't they be excited? Why wouldn't they want to talk to you? Why wouldn't they at least write you back? When you're sharing about the miraculous things that Jesus Christ can do in somebody's life. And the only thing I can figure is because it doesn't suit them, doesn't suit their ministry, But I did these things in ignorance, thinking that people, these type of men, had a heart for the Lord like I do, and maybe they do. Maybe I can't judge their heart, but I know they never bothered to contact me. So that's one of the reasons I have to do these little YouTube videos, is because I don't have a platform to preach Christ. I've never been allowed to give my testimony in a church, even my own church. The kind of things I say, and I guess it's because I'm not a very good speaker. I'm not educated. I was a waterfront mechanic, for Pete's sakes. I don't want to, they don't want to embarrass themselves by putting somebody like me up and, put a spotlight on somebody like myself. And, I realize now in making these videos just how rough behind the, how rough I am, how rough my videos come across. And they're not very good as far as teaching and speaking and that type of thing. And I struggle with that. But my whole thing is to share Jesus Christ in my life. And it just is, it's very sad that that Christians who walk in the Spirit and have experienced Christ in their life aren't allowed to share that with well-established ministries. All right, keep looking up, everybody. Bye-bye.